Okay, good. Mayed. We're up to the Daf Samech. We're to the Mishnah on the last line on Nun Tes Amid Beis, and we're finishing the Sugya of Baina and the Perik of Baina. There's Hashem beginning the Perik of Ribbis. Ema Arvin Peiros B'Peiros. One can't go ahead. A Balabayas who says you can't go ahead according to Rashi and mix Peiros from one field to another field. In other words, I'm going to tell you I'm selling from this field. You can't mix two fields together. I feel chadashim b'chadashim, even if they're both same Paris of the time of the year. Right? You can't mix chadashim b'yishanim. It seems that yishanim are better ones. Therefore, you can't mix the inferior chadashim with the yishanim. Be'emes amru. Anytime the Mishnah says be'emes amru, the halacha is like this Mishnah. Be'emes amru, biyayin hetirul orev kosher berach. If a person goes ahead and sells you weak wine, so you would think you wouldn't be able to mix in stronger wine with weak wine, but you're able to. And the reason is because the stronger wine enhances the weaker wine. So we're giving a reason that even if you sold weaker wine, you're able to mix in stronger wine to enhance. Mishan is out of Mayim Biyayin. Someone who goes ahead, and I skipped the line. Ema Arvin Shmari Yayin Biyayin. You can't mix the shmarim, the leads, the sediment of the yayin and the yayin. Have a nice shmara, but you could put in its sediment. Makes no sense whatsoever, right? You just said a tarti desase. You just told me you can't mix, and then you told me you could mix. Makes no sense whatsoever. We'll see the Gemara. Mishin is Arav Mayim Biyain is someone who diluted his wine. Those wines were very powerful. They used to dilute 3 parts to 1. So if you went ahead and you diluted it, you shouldn't sell it in the chanas, because the chanas where people are buying undiluted wine, they're going to end up getting diluted wine, and that's not what they paid for it. So no, unless you go ahead and inform them. If you inform the Chenvani, then he'll know that he's selling diluted wine. A tager is a person who is he's a wholesaler, so he's selling a lot of wine. He's selling a lot of wine, and even if you tell him. You can't give it to him at all, because even he'll sell diluted wine. So again, you don't want to set up a person for oina. So the chenvani, it seems it helps to tell him that it's diluted or not. The tager, the wholesaler, does not help. However, in a place where the minig is to go ahead and place wine and wine diluted, you could do it. The tiger, the wholesaler, can go take from 5 threshing floors and place in one silo, and and from 5 different wine presses, and put it in one barrel. This body is not miskaven to mix together. Rashi explains on the last din, fellas. Says Rashi, la yiskaven la'arev, u'lahoitzi kol liknois haroiv mimakam mishubach, la'arev by mimakam acher. In other words, if he's buying from the same place and same quality, then it's not a problem. But let's say he buys really, really geschmack. It goes out that he's buying, let's say, Yardain wine, which has a very good shame. And then you hear that there's a shmur out there that he has good wine. And all of a sudden you find out he mixes in Lipschitz. He mixes Shapiro's, for those people who are old enough. He's mixing in Shapiro's and Lipschitz. And so that's a no-go. I see the old people are smiling, right? Why did they say about Shapiro's? There was a big sign. It was so thick you can cut it with a knife.
Cut it with a knife.
There you go. Right. That's what he said. Anyway, so you would be permitted to do that. You would not be permitted to do that. Oh, because it's again. So you're fooling people. People think they're buying. Oh, this guy bought you wine. In fact, they're getting Shapiro's. Okay. The Mishnah said you can't mix good and bad. Right. You don't need to tell me where you're mixing. When it's sold for 4 and then you're mixing it with a 3, which is more expensive. Even if the new is cheaper and is more expensive and the yeshenis are cheaper, you can't go ahead and mix new with yeshenis. Even though you're giving the guy monetarily, you're giving him better wine, better produce, whatever it is, produce over here. You're giving him something that's sold for 3 sa. 3 zuz to a saw, let's say, over here, and you're mixing it with 4 zuz to a saw, so you're giving him better stuff. If the person wants the old stuff, he doesn't want what? He doesn't care about the price. He wants a certain quality. kosher barach, if you go ahead and you contract out to sell a person weak wine, you're able to put in better wine because it's going to make the weaker wine better. Amr Laza, Ada Amra, Zayson Meres. Ada means since. Amra, Kol Be'emes Amru Halachahi. Anytime the Mishnah says Be'emes Amru, right, the halacha is like that because it gives a reason for it. And that's the reason. In this case over here, because it makes it better. Amrav Nachman, this Mishnah that says that you could mix together is speaking before the fermentation is complete. Between the gisays, literally between the vats, but before the fermentation is complete. Right. But if it's after the fermentation is complete, then you're going to put in one wine to another wine, it's going to ruin it. It says the Gemara statement for Idna, and now in this day and age, to come arve shalei ben gisays. You could, why bisman even when the fermentation process is complete, you can go ahead and mix together. Some Rav Papa, the Yodai become machloi, speaking where they know about it in the Michael. That they know about it in the Michael. Again, it doesn't ruin it, it just gives it a different flavor. And Rav Acha Beit Raviko Amar, Hamani, who's the Tana that you could mix even after the fermentation is complete, is Rav Acha. It's Rav Acha. The Tanya Rav Acha, Mate B'davar HaNitim. By a davar nitim, something that while you can go ahead and taste the difference, that would be permitted to go ahead and mix together. It's a big chiddush Rav Acha is telling you, and I know, guys, is when you're fooled. I know is when you're fooled. Over here, you're not fooled. You know, you're able to taste it in your makabel. In other words, yoda umachle. Why? You go ahead, you drink it, and you're able to say by the taste what it is. So you want this one thing, and you're makabel. Once I know is only when you can't possibly know what's happening. Over here, when you knew this is the deal, it's okay. So you chiddush Rav Acha is telling you in Aina. It didn't make any sense. We said you can't put sediment in wine, and then it says, but you could put its sediment. What does that mean? How can you tell me at the end you could put in its shmarim, but in the ratio you said you're not ma'arif at all? Might just say my. Where's the bone? My aval noisin lo yeshmarov. What does that mean? The kamoidale that you tell him. In other words, you can't mix it if you don't tell him. But if you do tell him, you could. Amidiktani seifa loyim charena bechanos. You can't sell it to the diluted wine to a storekeeper. Elam kain my deal unless you inform him. V'loy tagar, and you can't sell it to a wholesaler. Afapisha my deal, right? Even if you inform him. In other words, when the Mishnah is introducing the chilik of information in the last clause, nechlal the previous clause, the reisha, afagav the loy moidela. Even if you don't tell him, you're able to mix in the shmarim. In other words, we thought we had a possible teretz to the problem. You just told me you can't mix it. Then you told me you could mix it, right? Now what's the answer? The potential answer? You can't put it in if you don't tell him, but if you do tell him, you could. That obviously can't be the right answer because we first introduced the distinction between telling and informing in the Sefer of the Mishnah. So that can't be Bishan in the ratio of the Mishnah, because if it was, they would have said it on the ratio as well. So Amrav Yehuda Hachikam. Here's the way you have to read this cryptic case. Eima Arvin Shmarim Shel Amish. You can't mix the Shmarim of yesterday, Bishel Yoim, with the ones of today. V'lo Shel Yoim, and not the ones of today, Bishel Amish, with yesterday's. You can't mix two wines on two separate days. You could put it in its own shmara. Now, what does this mean? Mashma that it has to do with the days. Look at Rashi, fellas, the second wide line. Second wide line in Rashi. You could put in the shmarim from its own wine. Right? You could put in the shmarim from its own wine. The Amish lav dafka. When it says yesterday is lav dafka. But who hadin L'yoyim, the same thing on the same day, v'yoyim, mishtei chavias. If it's two separate wines, even on the same day, it's not what? You can't do it. It has nothing to do with the day, says Rashi. It has everything to do with the wine. So question, why did the Gemara set it up in terms of day? You can't mix in Sunday's wine with Monday's wine. You can't even mix in Sunday's wine with Sunday's wine if it's a different wine, or Monday wine with Monday wine if it's of a different wine. So why are you going in and telling me Sunday wine with Monday wine? Right? Urcha is learning that stam yoim v'amish mishtei stam. If it's two separate days, it's two different pressings. It's two different barrels. So usually on one day it's the same wine. But einachinami, fellas, if it's it's two different pressings, two different wines on the same day, says Rashi. right? And there are Rishonim who disagree, but Rashi says, so that's what it means. You can't mix, let's go back to the Mishnah, guys. Ein ma'arvin, you can't go ahead and mix third line from the top. Ein ma'arvin shmara yayin b'yayin, you can't mix in one shmarim from one wine to another wine, aval noisin le'eshmarav, but the shmarim from its own self that you could mix in. But the shmarim from its own self that you could mix in, that's the way we're answering the Mishnah. Okay, back to the Gemara. Tanya Nami Hachi, 3 lines down where it gets wide at the end. Tanya Nami Hachi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Shoifa Yayin Chavera, someone's going ahead and pouring slowly wine to his friend. Harizelo Ya'arav Shal Amish B'Shal Yoim. Shouldn't mix together yesterday's and today. Lo Shal Yoim B'Shal Amish, no, not today's, but yesterday's. Al Ma'arav Shal Amish Shal Amish B'Shal Yoim B'Shal Yoim. And again, as Rashi explained, it's the same wine. Mishan is Arav Mayim B'Yenoi. Someone who has what? Water mixed into his wine. He shouldn't sell in the chanos because then it's the guy thinks he's buying diluted wine. It's not. If you tell the what, it helps to tell the chenvani. It does not help to tell the tagar. Rava isolate chamra. Now Rava was famous for his dilution, guys. It's called the mizug de Rava. Mechenusa. He went ahead. He purchased wine from a chenvani. Now chenvani has the same thing as a tagar, guys. Chenvani vis-a-vis this has the din as a tagar that you can expect that you're getting from him what? Undiluted wine. Mazge taime, he went diluted it. Taime, he tasted it. Lehavi basim, he didn't like the aroma. Shadre lechanusa, he returned it. So what's he returning to the chanus? He's returning diluted wine. But what did we say? We said if you go ahead and sell diluted wine to a chenvani, you have to inform him. So for all intents and purposes, Rav is selling by returning diluted wine to the chenvani, and he's not going ahead and informing him. So Abaya questions Rav's actions. And the chenvani has a din of a tagar over here that he's going to sell it. So Amalei, Masgadidi made the yada. My dilution, my ratio is well known. My ratio is well known. So in other words, there's no way a person is going to taste this and think it's diluted. It's undiluted wine.
So how do you sell it the first time?
Who?
Rava.
What do you mean? Rava bought it.
Rava bought, but then he gave.
Rava bought it from the chenvani. He didn't like it. He returned it to the chenvani, but he's returning to the chenvani diluted wine.
Because everybody knows that he dilutes wine, right? That Rava dilutes his wine. No, that was his justification.
No. Again, his justification for returning it is that everyone knows that it's diluted wine. In other words, the concern that one would have would not exist with Rava's dilution.
Right, because it's noted that Rava, has that type of mixture.
You could taste it.
Right, so I'm saying, but the first time he did it, nobody knew about it.
Who did it?
The tagar. He sold it back to.
He sold it to Rava.
He gave it back to.
What?
Right. He gave it to Rava. Rava dilutes it, gives it back.
Okay,
Rava dilutes it, gives it back.
So it's not a problem. He gave his money back. What's the concern? That the Tag is going to go ahead and resell it? There's no concern.
Oh, because everybody knows that's
right.
That Mitch. But I'm saying,
in other words, just as if you inform, don't say the word Tagar. Just like you inform the chenvani, you would inform the chenvani, it's okay to give him diluted wine. For Rava to return it to the chenvani, it's as if he told him the wine's diluted, because everyone knows Rava's dilution.
So in that Nakuda, that's what I'm saying. The first time Rava, everybody knows about Rava's dilution.
I don't understand.
But the first time he did it, they didn't know.
He only did it once.
Oh, okay, it was one time.
He bought it. He bought it from the chenvani. He only
the one time. Okay, it was a one-time thing. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Anyway, the chitema, the tafe umachle, maybe what they'll take this wine, add more wine to it now. Rava's dilution umazvunle. Let's be concerned about that. So Rava said, again, there's no way out to go ahead and be perfectly squeaky clean in this way. But I did what I can do. Regarding diluted wine, they know my wine's diluted. And what tunnel lemechza, if the ratio is a half, the shlish if the ratio is a third, the ratio is a fourth. This is all what You can put water in when it has not been fermented yet. It hasn't reached its stage of fermentation. The final Mishnah in Perek Hazav, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, in other words, you want to get kids to come to your store, don't go ahead and give out freebies. Don't give out free, candies and nuts. Make sure my deal in love at slice. So you want to say it's a bit of a no. You're causing other people to go ahead and you're being involved in illegal advertising by giving your kids the stuff. It's a bit of a no because you're causing loss to other meichrim. But the Chachamim Atirim says the Chachamim, no, it's fine, you can do it. And do not go ahead and sell something less than the market value. He doesn't say over here. It didn't say muta. What did it say? Zachal toiv. It's not only that it's muta. It's zachal toiv. You give him a bracha. Grisim. You shouldn't go ahead and take out from the grisim. You shouldn't take out the psilis and sell it for expensive because the person doesn't know the amount that was removed. Divrei Abishol. The Chachamim said no, it's muta. Let's say you're going to go ahead. Let's say you have a whole pitcher of this grease in top and bottom, and you clean at the top. So the assumption is just like you cleaned at the top, you cleaned at the bottom. And you shouldn't do that. I still remember being in my father's store, and someone came in with a pack of dimes, and he said, "Can I buy?" It was $5. Can you give me? I gave him $5 a pack of dimes, and it turned out there was a dime in front and a dime in the back, and the rest were pennies in the middle. I still remember this is, this is a kid. I was a young guy. It only happened to me once, but I'm saying it's the same thing over here. You look at the top, and that's what you get. Anyway, so aim mefarkasin layas adam. You don't go ahead and mefar cases to dress up and paint up, make it look good. A person, layas a behema, not a behema, layas a kalim. You want to sell something, don't go ahead and shine it up, as we're going to see when it's speaking about an old keli or an old person or so on and so forth. Okay, now we said the first thing was what that you can't give out the candies and you can't do business to make people going ahead and come to your store because you're going ahead and say, here, come on. So the Chacham said it's muta. My time, why the Chacham say it's muta? My time drabanan. The Amalei, you can tell the store owner who's complaining about the other guy who's giving out the freebies. Ana mifalginon, I'm goizi. Guess what? I give out nuts. You want it? Guess what? Biat maflik shiski. You can give out shiski. Here, Rabbi Avi, here's your Yoni Diyoma. Look at Rashi, shiski. Prunes. Prunes. It's a good thing to have on Pesach is prunes, right? So in other words, you give out this, I'll give out this. It's very good. Says the Gemara Vaita. And that you shouldn't go less than the market price. My timer, what says Rashi? My time in Nakat Zachal Toiv Lashon Bracha. Why don't they say Matirim? Just like we said in the Reish, it's Mutta. Okay, Zachal Toiv. My time Rabban is Zachal Toiv on the base. Mishum dekar marvich letar, because you're lowering the shar. As a result of this, people will go ahead and lower their prices. That people complain when a store comes into the neighborhood and has lower prices, and they're going to be hurt. Let them lower their prices also, and they won't make so much money. Right? They won't make so much money, but it's good for the consumer, of course, when you have a store in the neighborhood that has a lower price. In other words, if you go ahead and you look at the grisin and you're able to see that the psilus has been taken out, so it's something that you could see. This is the same Rav Acha who said on the Amid Aleph is by wine, if you could taste the difference. And we spoke out, there's no way if it's something that's discernible. So just like over there by the wine, it's discernible to taste. Over here by the grisin, by the grits, or whatever it is, you're able to discernible whether it has what psilus mixed into it or not. Memela, since it's a davanira, like that was a that's like over there is davanira, and over there what it was the davan memela if there's not shayach oina. Aim farchsin layas adam layas kalim layas behema tarabanan aim sharvatin es behema. You don't go ahead and make the behemoth's hair stand up. It stands by making the behemoth's hair stands up. It gives it a different look. The ein noichim b'kervayim, and you don't go ahead and make the animal's stomach appear fat. It's you don't make the kishkis expand. Nor do you go ahead and go ahead and place the animal in water. It's gonna make it look fatter. My aim is misharvitin. What does it mean aim misharvitin? That you don't make its hair stand up. Hacha tirgim, we'll hear in Bavel they matagim mayim dechizri, that you go ahead and give it bran water. It seems the bran water would go ahead and blow up its intestines and cause its hair to stand out straight. And Ziri Amar Rav Kahana is so you would just comb its hair. So in other words, you're selling an animal, don't beautify the animal, because it might be you're making the animal look more work than it is. Shmuel Shari Lemirma Tumi. Okay, I'm just quoting what I have written down over here. Shmuel permitted to go ahead and put silk fringes, the sabla on a coat. Rav Yehuda Shari Lekaskuse Karme to starch, decorate begodim. Rabbi Shari Lemitgate Sardi to hit the canvas. All these would beautify the item. Rabbi Shari Litzlume Gire to paint arrows. Papa Bashmul Shari Litzlume Dikule to go ahead and paint wicker baskets. Right? So how are they able to go ahead and all these kalim to beautify them, to sell them? Like kasha, if it's new, then of course you can beautify them, get your best price. But one that's old, and by beautifying, you're cheating the person that thinks they're getting something new. That's why you have to check the car report, right? The Carfax report to make sure you think you're getting something new and something was in an accident, right? So that would be Aina. That would be the type of Aina we're discussing over here, where you think you're getting one thing, it's an old thing. You want a new car, you want a new car. Pirkas Adam, one of the things you couldn't do was beautify a person, right? Maihi is speaking about an Evet Kanani, guys. You'd be buying an Evet Kanani. Evet Ivri does not exist anymore in this time of the Gemara, because it didn't exist from the time that Yovel was Mavatal. And the Vela is speaking about an Evet Kanani. Kihadu Avda Saba, it was this old Knecht, this alter Knecht, the Ozl Tzave L'Reishe, went ahead and he was the one
just for men.
All for men?
Just for men.
Just for men, yeah. So he got a bottle of just for men, and he just for men his hair, and he just for men his beard. So he was a silver-haired gentleman, and now he's a black-haired gentleman. So he wanted himself as bad as a younger manshik, right? As a young connect. Asla Kamei the Rava, he came in front of Rava. Amalei, Zavnin, buy me. Came in front of Rava. If Rava will treat him well, buy me. Amalei, Rava said, you a Naim b'nei Beisecha. Let the Aniyim, you Aniyim b'nei Beisecha. The Aniyim meaning I need people to take care of me. I'm going to get an Ani Yisrael. I'm going to have a person Yisrael. I'm not buying a guy. Askamei Rav Papa Bashmuel, and Zavnei Rav Papa Bashmuel did buy him. Yumachad one day, Amalei. So Rav Papa Bashmuel told the Eved, Ashken Maya, go get me a drink. Go schlep some water for me to drink. Azul Chavre L'Reishil. What did this Eved do? He got rid of the just for men. Now he showed him his true colors, or lack of that. He went ahead, he showed him what he really looked like. Amalei said the Eved to Rav Papa Bashmuel, Chaza, that not cautious me. See, I'm even older than your father. And you want me what? To go ahead and schlep water? So Koya Nafshe, Papa applied Papa Bashmuel applied the following din. Tzaddik mitzara nechlatz. A tzaddik from tzara is saved, and a Yahweh achra tachtav, and I guess he should have followed what? He should have followed Rava. Other takes his place. So the tzaddik Rava was saved from what? From this, and Yahweh achra tachtav me. Another, or it says Yahweh Russia tachtav. Now the Chas V'Shalom, the Papa Bashmuel was a Russia, but it's just applying the plus that he should have known better. So we begin for the fifth time as Neshech, and every time I don't know what to give over as a hakdama, because I always fear I give over too little, and then I always fear I give over too much. But this for sure you have to give over. You have to give over that there's something called neshech and there's something called tarbis. Neshech is the lashon of bite. Neshech is the lashon of a bite. When a snake bites you, this is based upon Rashi and Chumash. When a snake bites you, it begins as two fang marks. I don't know, it could be painful, not painful, but it's certainly the end result is much worse because it goes ahead, it spreads throughout your body, and if not treated, it will kill you. And ribis is the same thing. It begins as a little thing. It begins as a little thing, and it spreads. And it spreads. For those people, loyalenu, who've been in credit card debt, it began as a little. It began as a little, and paying the minimum amount just kept it going and going and going and going and going and going. Or anyone who has ever had a line of credit, the banks will go ahead and get you into a line of credit because they're charging less than the credit mark. So you're busy getting the cycle of taking a line of credit to pay for the credit card, and it's a vicious cycle. Now, sometimes we think of neshech as the mafioso. You need the money, and they charge you 50%, and they're going to break your kneecaps. It's not always that. Very often, the person is very happy to get that money. He's very happy to pay the interest. He needs the money now, and he's very happy to get that money now at a higher rate. All of this is not permitted. All of this is not permitted. The pasuk, the psukim that deal with neshech are many, and I share with you this screen. There are 3 psukim, major psukim. Let's just go through this one. This is speaking about the malva, the one who's lending. Al tikach me'itai neshech v'tarbis. Do not take from him neshech v'tarbis. So it's warning to the malva. Do not take neshech v'tarbis. V'yaresim elokecha, and fear Hashem. V'chay achicha imach. Es kasbecha lo yisitin lebeneshech. Uv'marbes lo yisitin achlecha. Okay. Ani Hashem elokechem asher etzesi eschem eretz Mitzrayim. There's Rabbi Avi Yonyani Diyayma. We throw in Yetzias Mitzrayim in the parsha of Ribis. In the parsha of Ribis, we throw in what? Yetzias Mitzrayim. And if you look it up in the Torah proper, says Rashi, he brings 2 things. The second thing, Asher etzesi eschem eretz Mitzrayim, al menash shetekablu alechem mitzvasi. Even if they're very, very hard on you. Even if they're very hard on you. It's mashma, it's very hard not to go ahead and take ribis. After all, it's my money. You have the use of my money. It makes every sense in the world that I should be rewarded for giving you my money. In other words, my money is working. Ribis makes sense. Ribis makes sense. And you give away your money to somebody without getting back anything is very hard. It's very hard. Yetzias Mitzrayim, again, these things are very, very hard. We compare it to Yetzias Mitzrayim. We compare it to Yetzias Mitzrayim. As a matter of fact, here's the Torah Kahanim says, Kol makabel ol ribis, anyone who's makabel the oil of ribis, the lotion of oil, means an oil not to go ahead and to give out an interest-free loan. Is the kabel ol malchus shemayim. The chol she'ein makabel ol ribis is ki'ilu poirik mimenu ol malchus shemayim. So it seems to be an unbelievable thing when it comes to ribis. And ribis, guys, is in Yeridea. It's not in Choshe Mishpat. The hilchos ribis is in Yeridea. It's been adl chaveiroi. It's like Oino. It's not in Choshe Mishpat. But Oinos Devarim, for example, it's not Choshe Mishpat dikaden. These are things that a person's supposed to do. So ribis, and it's anyone sitting here who has had to pay off a mortgage could appreciate what it would have been. Was it a mortgage-free loan? If you ever look on your contract, if you took out a 30-year loan and you see how much front-loaded is the ribis, it's amazing. You can be 10 years in your house and you would have paid off such a minimal amount of principal. Why? Because the banks know that a lot. They know that they want to get their money, and they front-load it, and then you're paying ribis. The world goes ahead and functions all on ribis. And what's the Jew expected to do? Im kesef tal v'esami. Im kesef tal v'esami. The Jew is supposed to be im kesef tal v'esami. What the Jew is supposed to do? Im, not if. This im is when. When kesef tal v'esami, esa oni imach, when you go ahead and lend, it's a mitzvah to lend your brother that's poor with you. Don't charge him interest. The biggest chesed you can do for a Jew is to give him an interest-free loan. Give him an interest-free loan. And that's a huge, huge thing. That's a huge, huge thing. So the hashkafa behind ribbis is very, very much in the Yeresim Elokecha. It's very much, the halacha ribbis is very much of a fear of Hashem, because it's very hard not to take ribbis. It's very hard not to take ribbis, right? So the Yeresim Elokecha, you're doing what Hashem wants. You're doing the right thing, right? And I think it's a little hakdama to the yisoid behind ribbis. Now, the factual din of ribbis, this is where I have trouble what to tell you or not to tell you. But basically, ribbis is the following. It's called ribbis kitsutza. You want it $10? Okay, I'll lend you $10. You give me back $15. You need the money now. You're very happy. Everyone's happy. This guy's happy to give the loan. This guy's happy to take the loan. That's called ribbis kitsutza. Kitsutza means set. The ribbis is set at the time of the halva. That's classic ribbis. Fruit. You want X amount of fruit? Give me back X. I'll lend it to you. Give me back X amount of fruit. So ribbis is not limited to money. It could be extended to fruit. It could be extended to food. So this pasuk, fellas, is a bit of a misnomer. If you look over here, by my pointer, it says, "As kaspacha lo sitin lo beneshech, uvemarbis lo sitin achlecha." It's marbis that neshech is in kesef, as kesef lo sitin beneshech, uvemarbis lo sitin achlecha. And for food, do not give ribbis and do not give marbis, right? Do not do that. Lav dafka, fellas. We're going to see that neshech and ribbis are one and the same. It's possible neshech in fruit, and it's possible marbis in kesef. It's one and the same, as we're going to see. But the main thing is that the chiyuv of ribbis is derech halva. The chiyuv of ribbis is derech halva. Okay, it's that derech meko chememka. When we're going to speak about futures contracts, right? When we speak about futures contracts, that's all the rabbanan. Most of ribbis is the rabbanan. Most of the ribbis is the rabbanan. Okay. If you just look at 1 second at Samech Gimel Amid Beis. Samech Gimel Amid Beis. If you look at the Tosfos, the last Tosfos on the page, Ma'u de Tema, you go down 2 lines, there's 2 dots there. Omer Rav Nachman, Klolo de Revisa, the klal of ribis, Kol Agar Nota Le Aser. Anyone who has his schar waiting is aser. Anyone who has his schar waiting, what we call agar notar, is aser. In other words, you have your schar waiting for you. You gave X amount, and you have schar waiting for you. You're going to get that extra amount for delaying. That's the klal of ribis. That's the main idea of ribis is agar notar. That the schar is waiting for him, for people using his money. So using that model, when you do business, a futures contract, it could be that by you giving money now, right, to get paid back later, right, and on a futures contract, even though it's derech mekum chememka, the person's buying something, right, it could look like ribis because it's aganatala. So I think for brevity's sake, and not to get too involved because you forget a lot of stuff, we're going to go through the psukim, the 3 psukim, we'll be able to go through them again. We'll do the Mishnah. The latter case of the Mishnah is a case of a futures contract. I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to read it, and then we'll go through today's daf. And B'ez Hashem, we're going to do a daf later on today in the afternoon, probably close to the 3 o'clock if I get it done. Okay, probably close to the 3 o'clock. I'm going away for Yontif, right? Ari, you're on your own. Benji, you're on your own. And payback is nice. And so B'ez Hashem will be about 3 o'clock, the second share. Okay, so let's see the psukim we have over here. Okay, and 3 times in the Torah, Shmois, im kesef tal. It's a mitzvah to let. This is mitzvah to give an interest-free loan. In kesef tal vesami esa'ani imach le'siyalei k'noisha le'sisim lov neshech. Interest-free loan. Now we have 2 psukim, one that deals with the malva and one that deals with the lova. And not only is it also for you to lend ribis, it's also for you to borrow ribis. It's also for the person to borrow. The person who's willing to give ribis is over in Anissa. It says in Vayikra Chafei Psukim Lamed Lamevav Lamed Zayin, Atichach Meitoi, do not take from the lender from the borrower. Neshech tarbis v'yaresim elekecha v'chayachicha imach. You let him live with you. As kaspol loisitin lebeneshech uv'marbis loisitin achelcha. Ani Hashem elokechem asher tzes yischem eretz Yisrael. So that's going on the malva. What about the loive? If the varim chav gimel and parshas kiseitze, ki loy sashich la'achicha. You should not go ahead and pay to your brother. Neshech kesef neshech oichel. Don't pay him. You, the loiva, do not pay ribis. Kol dava asher yishach. Anything that what yishach. L'nachri tashik for a guy you could. L'achicha loy tashik. On yivrach Hashem l'kecha. You call mishlach yadecha la'aretz asher tanu Hashem l'rishta. So these are the three psukim, and we'll be using them throughout the sugyas. And I wish everyone atzlacha rabba as we begin. Ezu neshech ve'ezu tarbis. Now, Pasha, you think they're two separate things, but they really are one thing. They really are one thing. Now, ezu neshech, what's neshech de'oraisa? What is ribis de'oraisa? Hamal v'sela behei dinarim. Yamalva a seller, which is 4 dinarim, they get paid back 5 dinarim. This is known as ribis ktsutza. So sayim chitim, you lend out 2 sa'ah chitim, v'shalish to get paid back 3 sa'ah chitim. That is ribis ktsutza. So you see that ribis is possible not only in money, ribis is also possible in food. Now it's asa. It's asa because why? This is neshech. There's a tarbis. Now what's tarbis? No. What's tarbis poshet without neshech? The havamina of the Gemara is hamar be'peiris. The person goes ahead and increases his wealth by peiris. Ketzad. Lakach himenu chitim b'dinar. Right? Zahav. Hakor. You go ahead and you a futures contract. I go ahead and I'm going to pay you for every core 30 sah. For every core you give me, I'm going to pay you a dinar of zahav, which is 25 silver. That's what we need. So you're paying for 30, you're paying 25. The chen hashar, and that is the price. Now, guys, since the price is out, there's no problem with ribis whatsoever. We don't have to go into it now. But since the shar is out, you're good. This is totally permitted. Amdu chitim b'lamed dinarim. Now, you can get, it's more expensive. It's not going to cost you 25 to get 30 sah. It's going to cost you 30. It's going to cost you 30 dinarim, right? It went up 5 dinarim of silver. Went from 25 to 30 for the same amount of chitim. So it went up in price. Amaloi, tainli chitai. The person says, give me my chitim. Shani writes l'maychram likach ben yayin. Now it's worth more money. Give it to me, and I will purchase more wine. Nothing wrong with this. Right now, since the shah was out, there's nothing wrong with this. Amaloi, the person who bought the contract said, listen, I'm upping it. I'm going from what? From 25 to 30. Again, what? And that loan, I'm lending you that 5, I have wine. I'll pay you back in wine. And he doesn't have wine, it's usher. Okay, again, this is where I'm not going to go ahead and explaining it. We're going to leave it to the Gemara, but the Gemara will explain it. Okay, now, with the shavik l'ribis daraisa, when the Gemara asked, "Ezu neshech ve'ezu tarbis," so it could have been what? It could have been ribis daraisa. But what case did we give by tarbis? We gave a case of a futures contract, right? We gave a case to Rabbanan. Why was it the case to Rabbanan, fellas? Because it's mekach memker. It's mekach memker, right? If you look at Rashi, fellas, Hamar be'peris on the Mishnah, Hamar b'schar la'atzmai be'peris. Someone increases his reward through peris. Gemara mefarish the mahalvos kesef or peris nami havi tarbis. If you lent kesef or peris, it's also tarbis. It's not only neshech, it's tarbis. Shai misrabim imoina because his money increased. V'chacha ribis the rabbanon kamefarish derech mekoch memkar. This is all ribis d'Rabbanan because it's through a futures contract rather than a halva. So the first thing that we have to notice, anytime it's going to be mekach memka, fellas, that automatically will be a d'Rabbanan dikadin because it's not derech halva. It also behooves me to point out to you, the lashon of neshech is what occurs to the loiva. The lashon of tarbis is what occurs to the malveh. What does neshech mean? Getting bitten. Who's suffering over here? Ultimately, the loiva, the borrower. The lender, he's getting more money back. So he is tarbis, he's getting ribis, he's getting more. So neshech and tarbis is really referring to the neshech more to the loiva and the tarbis more to the gain of the malva. So that would explain these different lashonos. Now, again, if it's a classic loan, you can't have neshech without marbis. One person's getting bitten, the other person's gaining, right? And the same who didn't pay risk. So the Rashi is pointing out the Mishnah gone ahead and given the case of what of Harbis Daraisa, where you went ahead and you went out and, like we said in the lashon of the pasuk, was oichel. So why did it go ahead and jump to a case of the Rabbanan? With the Shavik Ribis Daraisa, when it could have given a case of Ribis Daraisa, become a Farish Rabbanan, and it says the case of Tarbis Rabbanan, the Chal Daraisa, the Neshech v'Tarbis Chad Milsahi. It must be that they're the same things, and it was unnecessary for him to explain it. It must be that Neshech and Tarbis are the same thing, that you can't have one without the other. So therefore, you jump to the case of Deraisa. Read the Gemara 1 second for Kroik Siv. The pasuk says not like that. What does the pasuk say? Guys, what is this pasuk? The second one, second pasuk on the board. Al tigach mi'itay neshech v'tarbis v'yireis melekecha v'chayach yichimach es kaspro leisitin loy b'neshech u'v'marbis leisitin achelcha. It's mashmas two separate dinim. The din of neshech and the din of two separate lavim. This one neshech and this one marbis. So you're telling me in the Mishnah it's one, from the pasuk it appears if it's two. But kroik siv neshech kesef the ribis oichel. Right? It says it's one and the other. That's what it says. Let's see Rashi on this. It says Rashi. Bakasiv nesach kesef ribis oichel es kaspro leisitin le beneshech uvemarbis leisitin achelcha umidachalke lebeis lavim tartininu. So they're not the same. So we have a problem. You went ahead and you jumped into a case of the Rabbanon, because you must say in the Raisa it's the same case. You see from the pasuk that it's not the same case, where you gave two separate cases. Okay, so now with Gemara makes a cheshbon. So it must be b'tizbra you're saying no problem. You're saying no problem. It's two separate cases, right? Saying it's two separate cases. Just hold on for 1 second. Okay, to summarize, the Mishnah, when it said Ezu Neshech Ezu's Tarbis, it should have said a case of Deraisa Neshech, a case of Deraisa Tarbis. It did not say a case of Deraisa Tarbis, because it must be that there is no, the case of Tarbis and Neshech are one and the same, and therefore was unnecessary, and therefore it said a case of Tarbis to Rabbanan. For the Gemara, it's a pasuk that there are two separate cases. We have two separate lavim. So if there's two separate lavim, you should go ahead and split the two. The Gemara is questioning now, what does that mean? It's two separate lavim. Meaning, fellas, I'd have to have a case of neshech without tarbis, and I have to have a case of tarbis without neshech. In layman's terms, I'd have to have a case of only the loiva suffering and not the malva gaining, or a case of the malva gaining without the loiva suffering. Guys, theorize, right? Guys, theorize. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of language that gets mushed together. If you're telling me that they're two separate lavim, it must be neshech is only when the loiva suffers and the marba does, and therefore the malva doesn't gain, so there's no tarbis. Or there's a case of where the malva gains tarbis, but there's no neshech because he doesn't suffer. Because you're telling me the Mishnah, the Gemara, the pasuk has two separate cases, right? That's what you're telling me right now. There's two separate cases. There's a case of neshech and the case of marbis. So if that's the case, in layman's terms, there's a case of where the loiva gets suffers and the case where the malva gains. Correct? That's what I'm saying right now. So that's the Gemara is looking for that right now. So back inside. B'tizbra, the ikka neshech beloy tarbis. You're going to have a case of neshech without tarbis, meaning the loiva suffering and the malva not gaining. The tarbis beloy neshech, or the malva gaining, the loiva not suffering. Let's go try to find that case. Neshech beloy tarbis hechidami. What would be a case where the loiva suffers and the malva doesn't gain? He borrows 100 prutas and he's going to pay back 120 prutas. So l'chayr there's neshech right there, correct? He's paying back 20 prutas more. Meikara kaimi meya bedanka. At the time of the loan, it's 1/6 of a dinar. This amount of 100 prutos was worth 1/6 of a dinar. And at the end, when it came time to repay the loan, and now it's worth what? It's worth 120. So in other words, it's worth 1/6 of a dinar is the 1/6 of a dinar went from 100 to 120. So now, at this case, he's getting a danka. He's not gaining anything, the malva, correct? The malva's not getting anything because he's getting back danka the same worth of it. Whereas the loiva, l'chayra, paid 120 for 100, right? For 100. Neshech ikad the kanachas lay because shaklamine midi delay yahiv, the 120 versus 100. The tarbis leka, right? The less lay rafka, the danka oisvei danka kashaklamine. He's getting back 1/6 of a dinar either way. Says the Gemara, that's not a good case because saif ibasame kara azla. If you go after the time of the loan, hari neshech hari tarbis, he got bitten 20 and he gained 20 at the time of the loan. Ibasa payment, ibasa besoit. If you go after the payment in the end, aslis. Loy neshech hikav loy tarbis hikav. Why? There's nothing. It's worth 120, and it's a danka. So neither way. So that's not the case. The su. So that can't be a case of neshech without tarbis. The su tarbis by neshech. What would be the case of the malva gaining and the lova not losing? Hechidami. Ida oisvi meya b'meya meikara. In other words, 100 for 100. Meikara kaima meya b'danka. Ubesoif meya v'esrim, and it went down, right? In the end, it went down to 1/5. So it went from 1/6 to 1/5. So it's worth more. It's worth more, right? 1/5 is more than 1/6. Ibasa kara asla. If you go after the beginning, loy neshech hikav loy tarbis hikav was 100 for 100. Ibasa the slave asla hari neshech, hari tarbis. You go at the end. The bottom line is that you have neshech and tarbis. El amarava I ata moitze loy neshech loy tarbis loy tarbis loy neshech. You don't find the two. In other words, even though the Torah made it into two separate psukim, it's not two separate things. Neshech and tarbis are synonymous. They're synonymous. There's no difference between the terms. Very important to know. There's no difference between the terms. So why did the Torah go ahead and make it two different things? So this pasuk over here that we have over here is not to tell me there's two separate cases. There's not two separate cases. If there's neshech, there's tarbis. Meaning, if the loiv is hurting, the malva is gaining, and vice versa. Why just put a lav over here and a lav over here? To tell me if you go ahead and lend money for ribis, you're over on two lavim. A lav of neshech and a lav of marbis. Okay, that's Bes Hashem. And we'll continue. There'll be another share today, later on in the day.